Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551. And sorry if my voice sounds a little off a bit, though. I'm fighting a cold and all that stuff, so I'm taking medicine, trying to make myself, get better and all that stuff. But apologize if my voice is not sounding 100% perfect, though. Either way, though, I'm back here with a video review, and for this review, I'm going to be taking a look at the long-awaited sequel, and that is Psychonauts 2, the sequel to the 2005 original Psychonauts, though, being released on the Xbox Series X and S, though. I'm basing this off of my time with the Xbox Series S version. It is worth pointing out the game's also available on PC via Steam, Mac OS, Linux, and PS4, and I believe you can play it on the PS5 and all. And if you're interested in any gameplay footage, I'll have a link down in the description down below, or you can click on the card that will appear up on this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And for parents out there, it is worth pointing out that Psychonauts 2 is rated T for teens, ages 13 up, by the ESRB, though. Now, I never got a chance to play the original Psychonauts when it was released back in 2005. At the time, I didn't really pay a huge amount of attention to it all or anything like that, though, but I've heard stories of how that game became sort of a cult hit among a lot of fans out there. It didn't sell well at first, though. It was a commercial failure, but apparently it did, over the years, sold better and all that stuff. It wasn't around until when I got my Series X that I started to try out the game, because I've been hearing bits about Psychonauts. Some of it from the fact that it was being crowdfunded, though others of the fact that Double Fine got purchased by Microsoft. And when I tried the game out, though, I thought it was actually not bad and everything. It was kind of like a throwback to like the early 3D platforms and all that. Well, now we have basically the sequel, though, the long-awaited sequel, Psychonauts 2, now available to download, mostly to download, especially for those who have Xbox Game Pass. And after trying out the game, I will say makes me wish to some degree that I tried out the original Psychonauts, which I believe is available also on Game Pass, back then when the game originally came out. So why don't we get started with the pros and the cons, and we'll start off first with the pros, and that is, the first part we'll talk about is the graphics and the music. And I will say this is probably one of the game's high points that I do like, though. I definitely like the art style and the visuals to the game. You definitely get a little bit of a Tim Burton vibe out of it, though, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I really like the style Tim Schafer aimed for in terms of for the graphics, though. And the music kind of gives off a little bit of that Danny Elfman vibe to it as well. So visually, the game looks really good, and the music sounds great and all. The next thing I do want to talk about is the story, and I will say the story is very enjoyable, though. One of the things it points out is that the story does dig into a lot of the issues of mental health, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Most of it is done somewhat in a humorous style and in a way, but it definitely brings up a lot of things in terms of mental health. One brings up the issue of like someone being addicted to gambling and all, and to other issues as well. So I really like the approach that they made with the story and all, basically digging into mental health, but in a way that can be understandable for some folks out there. And last but certainly not least is the platforming. I will say that I definitely enjoyed 3D platforming in the game, though. It's definitely is enjoyable and all. In fact, to me, it feels like a throwback to basically the early 3D platforming games I remember during the N64 and the PS2 era, those, which is certainly not necessarily a bad thing. I remember those games were enjoyable back then, and this game still is and this game sort of brings back some of that memory, though. Also, it's worth pointing out the game does run at a good 60 FPS, even on the Series S, which is nice. I've been hearing it could run up to 120 FPS, but I have yet to figure that out at this time if that's true or not. But as far as 60 FPS to me is just fine. It runs perfectly fine. And like I said, I think and like I mentioned before, visually, though, it looks great. Maybe not on the same level as PC or Xbox Series X, though, but still looks good nevertheless. But either way, though, the platforming in the game is enjoyable for me, though, especially for someone who enjoyed some of the 2D or 3D platforming and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, which is the Cons. So we'll take a little break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video review of Psychonauts 2 for the Xbox Series X and S, though. So now that I gave you my pros, why don't I start off with give you the cons, though? And it's really only one con I could think of in regards to my time with playing Psychonauts 2, and that has to do with also the platforming, though. Now, I mentioned in the pros that I thought the 3D platforming was enjoyable and all, and I still do. I still think the platforming is still fun, and I don't have any huge problems with it, though. But I will admit that there are times, though, in the game when the platforming can be sometimes tricky and frustrated at times, though. There are moments when sometimes you feel like you're aiming your jump and sometimes you miss it. Sometimes it has to do with trying to get to a platform that you think is reachable, but it's not, though. And sometimes you feel like you missed the mark, or sort of think you get it, hit it, though, but then you suddenly fall to your doom and all. So the platforming, I will say, at the very least, when compared to something like, say, a Mario game in general, though, it's not as solid as a Mario game. Now, I know some will think I'm being a bit biased or anything like that, and I just want to say, I'm not saying the platforming in Psychonauts 2 is unplayable or bad or anything like that. It's not. It's enjoyable. It's good, though, but it's just that when compared to, say, a Mario title, though, I would say that Mario, I still view as the king of platforming, and I think the Mario games do it a bit better, though, but that's not to say Psychonauts is bad or anything like that. And if anything, I would put it on the same category as, say, like what the Banjo-Kazooie 3D platform games were back during the N64. They're good. They're not perfect. They're not as good as Mario, though, but still good nevertheless, though. So, yeah, sometimes platforming can be a little bit tricky and frustrated at times for Psychonauts 2, but it's nothing that nothing that I saw that made the game in any way unplayable, at least for me. They're not terrible. They're just, I just don't think they're as good as, say, like what a Mario game does or anything like that. Overall, though, Psychonauts 2 is definitely an enjoyable 3D platforming game, and one that I would personally recommend a must-own for those who are fans of 3D platforming, though. At its best, though, the visuals and the art, the graphics, the visual, and the music are great. The story is enjoyable, especially when it addresses the issue of mental health. And the 3D platforming game is still good, though. But at its worst, though, it's not as solid as, say, like what a Mario 3D platforming game is, though. It doesn't mean it's a bad game or makes the game unplayable. It's just nowhere near that level of a Mario title, to be exact. But in either case, though, Psychonauts 2 is definitely a fun game. I personally would recommend it, especially if you're a fan of 3D platformers. And if you're not sure about getting the game is on Game Pass, though, so it's worth, trying it out on Game Pass and seeing if it's the kind of game that interests you or not, though. It definitely interests me, though, because, like I said, I'm a fan of platformers, particularly from 2D to 3D platformers, though. So I definitely enjoy Psychonauts, though. I'm hoping that it does well enough that a Psychonauts 3 does happen, and I'm also hoping that this opens the door to the possibility of maybe doing a Brutal Legends 2. I think some people would love to see that sequel, see that happen if they could be able to do it, though. So hopefully it opens the door to those kind of games, and I definitely like to see Microsoft really push out more of those first-party games, especially onto Game Pass, though. I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm glad that this is on Game Pass, but I would like to see hopefully more. Hopefully Starfield will have the kind of similar impact that Psychonauts 2 is having, though we haven't seen much of the gameplay, so it's too early to tell. But in either way, fans of 3D platformers, though, should definitely consider taking a look at Psychonauts 2. And since it's on Game Pass, it's worth trying out if you're not 100% sure if you want to spend the money or not. Okay, this concludes my video review of Psychonauts 2 for the Xbox Series S and X. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Psychonauts 2? Was this the long-awaited sequel that you were waiting for a while, though? Have you picked up the game? Which system did you get it on? Did you get it on the Series X or S, or Xbox One, or PC, or Mac OS, or Linux, or even got it on the PS4 if you supported the crowdfunding, though? Do you think this can open the door to the possibility of maybe a Psychonauts 3 or a Brutal's Legends 2? Do you want to see Sony push more of these first-party titles onto Xbox Game Pass? Do you think this is the right approach for Microsoft, though? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!